No, it's exercise.
Exercise.
You're coming around and you bend down, then bend up, bend down,
I've
bend
been doing that all day.
up. You come here to rest, right, Chuck?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's 6:00. Get the service meeting called to order. The roll call,
Cosgrave,
present.
Schaffner, Foreman.
Present. Also in attendance, we've got the mayor, village administrator, Chuck and Green. That's about it. No visitors, all right? No. Looking for approval of.
He's on
minutes.
vacation.
I know.
Last meeting. Yeah, I read them. Looks like.
There's just a couple issues.
You're just gonna give those to me, handwrite them, give them to me, and then I'll send them to her tomorrow morning.
Issues, who said what,
Yeah.
what times.
So
Barb
we'll
was
just,
just-
Misidentified. person, but the
Barb's
statements are-
learning voices, you know.
so motion to approve is written or amended as amended. I made a motion, you can second.
Schaffner second.
We got, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Approval of minutes, isn't it? Visitors, goals. Previously, there was a 5-year plan distributed as Excel spreadsheet a few weeks ago. Streets, wastewater treatment plant, water treatment plant, the I&I project. So all of that's still being tweaked, I believe.
I guess I would ask, was there any questions on the street 5-year plan? Did anybody have any questions? It's more of a guidance than it is concrete.
Right.
Okay,
Not an ordinance. It's a rough plan.
that's correct.
So then we move on to.
Okay. So I'll start with the wastewater treatment plant. We're waiting for our chemicals to arrive. We have been working on the chemical room, reactivating it or et cetera. If you remember, it was a part of the original plan for the wastewater treatment plant, but somehow along the line, it was stopped being used. EPA wants us to use it again, so we've been getting it back up. We have $30,000 of $20,000 of the ARP money that we're putting towards that. Membrane 2 is currently in a chlorine clean. They're not showing any signs of obvious hardness buildup, which is very good. Today, Brad called me and said it's white. So I'm going great. If you remember, I had pictures before, they were kind of tea color and brown, so they're getting white. Membrane number 4 will be the next to have a chlorine and acid clean. That's so we can keep that rolling, so we can just roll all the cleans, one's done, go back and do another one. Ohio Rural Water did come into the wastewater facility to use their drone boat to help us capture pond depth. At your stations, you will see a picture of an orange blob. The reason why I printed it out is because when I scanned it or whatever, it didn't come out real well because as you can see, we're kind of consistent anywhere from, maybe 15 feet down to 2. Doesn't sound like a lot, but according to Ohio Rural Water, they figure we only have about 3.5 to 4 foot of sludge in the bottom, which they say is very good for the age of the plant. So this is just a picture of their day of cruising our EQ basin. So kind of good information here.
At what point do we need to pull all the sludge out of the EQ basin then?
We figure it's at least a couple of years, and in the meantime, what we're trying to do is come up with even going further and getting a more accurate read of of how deep it is. What we're trying to do is find the original drawings of the EQ basin. Now, the original EQ basin was enlarged. So what we see now, it has doubled. When it got enlarged, I'm being told that someone just went out and planted a stake and said, go here. So we're trying to find the original, very original EQ basin drawing. We have not been able to do that yet. So so those seem to be eluding us, but we'll keep looking. On July 11th, we'll be meeting with Greif. Their engineers, Brown and Caldwell, B3 and my staff. I will be talking about two things, and that's their discharge permit and everything that happened last winter, where they're at on the things that they promised us they would do, and also on the odors that we're experiencing from the plant in the air. So, so it should be a very productive meeting. So that's July 11th. And again, I talked about the chemical room reactivation equipment. Delivery now is 3 to 4 weeks out. Things are really, some things are picking up as far as getting them when we deliver them. Rick probably knows this. Some things are not. So we have a schedule. I'll go on to water. We have scheduled a full tower clean out this year, which means that the tower will be completely empty. So when the tower is completely empty, we put valves on our hydrants to keep the pressure up. So we will pump directly from the ground storage tower to wherever we need to go, because the water tower will be totally empty. They'll go in, they'll clean it, they'll disinfect it, we'll run tests, make sure everything is hunky-dory, and then we'll release the water back into the tower. This is the third time we've did this since I've been here, and knock on wood, each time has been like a breeze. So this is good for us. This is a part of that maintenance agreement that I put together with Suez about 5 years ago, where every so often we drain the tower and we clean it out on the inside. Finally, we received our massive shipment of meters. So they are in, and we'll be looking at reviewing our installation schedule. Again, I was speaking to Debbie today. We're going to start doing our budget planning a little earlier. And along with that, the first thing we have to do is we have to get our schedules around. So we'll be scheduling when we're going to start installing these water meters. These are a part of the lost water project that we have going on. So the new SCADA computer, which was Windows 7, which was not healthy because of the lightning strike. Finally, that should be in this week. We've had some of the electronics that the engineering company needed were on back order, and they think they're ready to go this week now. They talk about lightning struck. The insurance adjuster was out last week. He walked around he went into the tower and showed him everything that got struck, how it did it, went out to the ground storage tank. So just to make sure that, he had any other questions, we were able to supply him with photos of damages, because some of the stuff, of course, we've replaced, which he understood. So we're working on that, and that insurance claim that we'll be submitting for the water tower for the damage. The mushroom fountain at the pool still isn't up. Everybody keeps saying, when is this going to start running? It seems that, it's an older piece of equipment, and it seems like every time we try to put a new pump to it or whatever, it blows something out. And right now we're waiting on a fitting. A fitting got cracked this last time when we tried to turn it on this morning. So hopefully that will be up, depending on how long it takes to get the fitting this week. We only have a few of the black aluminum that we still need to order to finish the Shade Pavilion. So that is almost done. Lots of use. If you haven't been there, you see a lot of people using it. And talk about people using it. Our attendance is fantastic this summer. As of last Friday, during a period since the pool opened to last Friday, we've had 3,500 visitors to our pool. And of that, we've had 1,430 that had memberships. So memberships are pretty high. We ran out of membership cards. We had to order some more. So attendance has been really great. Along with that, so far, since last Friday, we brought in $41,000, which 22 of that is memberships. Now that's compared to last year at this time, we brought in 36. So we're a little ahead of last year. Last year we had a lot of rain. We've had rain this year, but it has not seemed to shut us down as much as possible. So I think the pool is doing really, really well. The streets, a line painting, if you remember when we were doing Park, we wanted to get Basel lined because we, up on the hill on Basel, to get that line with paint. The line people that came in to stripe, the line stripers, said they didn't have time and they were booked solid, so they didn't do it. So we reached out to a company called Griffin. We've used them before on smaller projects. So they're gonna come in, they're gonna do the center line on Basel. They're going to do the parking stalls for both the police department and for the village here. And so that's going to come to about $3,500, $3,600 to have that work done, which I thought was pretty reasonable. Prior to them coming in and painting, which would be the last of August, we're going to go ahead and coat the police station parking area and our parking area here, reseal it before we put some paint down. So I wanted to talk when I was on this with council. I had a complaint about, I don't know, it's been a couple months ago now, when somebody told me, why is a handicap parking place where it is, that the person that's handicapped that drives has to get out into traffic? You know, so in other words, if they're driving and they're handicapped, they open up the door, they have to get out in traffic and they have to walk all the way around. They wanted to know why it wasn't in the parking lot.
And you're talking the one right here.
Right here.
For clarification, yeah.
I'm sorry, yes, the one right here outside the door. So then I had another person approach me and ask me the same thing. If I stripe the parking lot to be ADA acceptable, we're gonna probably lose 2 more parking spaces. Parking is at a total premium. We no longer can park at our neighbors in the gravel. That is a no-no. So the only place we really have to park is the street or what's left, you know, in the parking lot. Parking is getting to be a real issue here. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention because probably we need to put in that ADA parking space in front of the office.
You put in one.
Mhm.
But if you put in the one and you put it where the SUV sits right now, you need the space next to it striped
Yeah,
out
so we'll
for,
lose 2 parking.
for van accessibility.
So not a good situation when it comes to parking. So I wanted to bring that up. We're continuing to pull patch it. If you remember last time I said that we had the crew out cleaning up what curbs we have with grass and trash and all of that, trying to clean those up. We saw a couple more areas today we need to work on. The Park Drive project, if you remember last meeting, I think it was Mrs. Hannah, I believe is her name, was here about her driveway approach. The next day I went over and I looked at it. Her driveway approach is not concrete, it's gravel, it's stone. So I did see that it was about maybe 2.5 inches, 3 inches high. Don't think that it was really an issue, but what I have did is I've talked to Mike, who from B3, who's our engineer, and what we did is a list of, I think we have 3 people that we're going to go back and shave the edge of their driveways down. 2 have concrete, 2 has stone, 1 has concrete. So that's the best we could do. One of her issues is she wanted to be able to put stone up in the right of way so she can pull up into the right of way beside the sidewalk instead of parking on the street. Probably not going to do that, but I will like lob her driveway down so it's easier for her to get in and out. Last but not least, this week I have a meeting with Fairfield County Economic Development staff. We have new businesses going in town. We have 1 subdivision on its way, 1 new subdivision that's taken new life. And so I'm going to meet with them to see if there's something that the state could offer us. We here in the village have never gotten any incentives for economic development, so I'll be interested in what they have to say or what they have to offer. Not myself, but the people that want to locate here. Finally, round 37 OPWC projects will begin. They'll be taking applications September 1st, closing on November 4th. And so this is why we're going to get started a little earlier with our projects this year, so we know what we're going with. I'll look at, if you look at the graphs this month, a couple of things I wanted to point out. In water, I wanted you to see that down in the right-hand corner, I have put in a graph that shows you the difference between his raw and his finished numbers. And the reason why I'm doing this is, again, a part of that unaccounted for water. I wanted to show you that we are decreasing the amount of water that we're using to regen and et cetera at the water treatment plant. So that is coming down. That's what we'd like to see. We'll never, ever, never get to zero because it takes water to regen at the plant. Door tags we didn't have as many as last month, but we had more shut-offs, I'm sorry to say. So some of those shut-offs were holdovers from last month. I was hoping they would come in and pay and they didn't. So, but those are still decreasing. We're not as high as we were in March. So I'm okay with that. Any questions on the water metrics? Now I want to go to the wastewater metrics. And one of the things I want to point out here, down in the lower right-hand corner, is that you will see that this month we had 7.45 inches of rain. And the reason why I'm pointing that out, if you look at the graph right next to it, you'll notice we only had 3 overflows. Now I say only, and everybody says, why didn't we have 0? But look at the difference in what we did the month before. Before we had 2 of our membranes, acid clean and wash and an auto, and how well they're helping us function. So cleaning these membranes are going to get us a long way in these overflows. It's never going to fix the problem until we get our I&I, until we start working on that, which I'll talk a little bit more about tonight too. So I think all of these graphs are looking good. I'm happy with all of them. Even though we went up a little bit with our South Central usage, I believe it's because the weather was so warm and the air conditioner was blowing so much out there is probably what the increase it was. It wasn't a large one, but it was a small one. So we'll keep an eye on that. That's one of the things that we're watching as we clean the membranes. Any questions on those? Okay. So
Is the plant on auto now or?
I have 2 membranes, one membrane on auto, one's getting washed. As soon as that gets done getting washed, it'll go on auto. And then we'll go, like I said, to number 4. So yes, as much as we can put them in auto, I think we're going to see a decline. And I think that's where our savings is going to be. So that's my report. I have other things, but that's my report.
Parks and Recreation Board.
We haven't had a meeting. We are having trouble getting a quorum. It just doesn't seem to be working this year for some reason. So we've canceled the last 2 or 3 park meetings. And at this time, usually in the summer, we usually take the summer off anyhow. So it's not a big impact on anything, but we need to get we either need to decide to build up that group or decide what we want to do with the parks, how we want to address them. I mean, as far as whether with a board or what. So
Let me ask Chuck, you've been around the longest. When the Parks Board was created, do you remember why or what that was for? I guess what I'm trying to figure out is we have a Parks Board that requires different groups of people to appoint people to. And I don't know why years ago the village created a Parks Board when we own all the parks. We don't have where you usually see something like that is where people joint own the parks, or the schools use parks for their games because they don't have their own fields. So that it gives the schools some access to it, or you have a park district where you got a bunch of people paying into it. We don't have that. We own all the parks. So I'm trying to figure out what the idea was to create the Parks Board that says all these other people, we have to have a board to run them, as opposed to, like smaller cities that they have a parks department, and they just run the parks themselves.
Well, I know Jim Hookerman was on it, and his son, I think, or grandson. And I think that's probably the reason when they started it, because there was just, information just you know, we might need it, but I don't remember really why we started it. I know Jim was on it.
Okay.
I-
I'll give Jim a call or something. and see
Right,
if you
because I
remember.
think a Parks Department, which we do have, it's a separate, separate, could do the same thing as what we're doing with the board. I think it has as much power as the
Or,
board.
even council creating a committee that, just like some of the other committees that have internal and external on it.
Mhm.
One of the problems we're running into with the current Parks Board makeup is in getting the user input. Baseball's been really cooperative with us,
Mhm.
and we want to give them a seat at the table. But the law says we can't give them a seat at the table.
Right,
And, yeah,
So, and then we have other people that have seats at the table and they're like, why are we here? So it's, I'm just trying to figure out information.
I kind of agree with Mayor. I think the composition would be better for the village if it was made of people such as the users from BYOB. I mean, they have went, BYOB.
We know where Terry's mind is at. No,
Sorry.
you cannot be YOB to our parks.
Okay, all right,
But you can attend a BYBA baseball game.
okay. So, sorry about that. But they do a lot. I mean, on their own, they get grants from South Central and other places, which to me is more of a coordination on the activities at the park, which may be something that we could use for Johnson Park too. So I think having a board that allows the users to be prominent on it is better than what we have now.
and I noticed this, maybe 2 weeks ago, they dumped a whole bunch of sand gravel.
Mhm.
You know it, did they tell you?
Mhm.
Okay,
In Johnson Park.
yes,
Mhm.
a little.
Yeah, they're the ones that seem to make an investment. in it.
Yeah, the
So they
baseball
ought
or something.
to- I ought to give them some say, but,
My point. Softball, he's great. We have great line of communications. Daniel is, doing the girls softball. Joey is doing BYBA. So, I think those are the people that should sit on the boards.
Yeah.
The same way with I don't want to forget the swim team. I mean, they are very active at the pool. They bring in anywhere from 300 to 500 people, 3 or 4 times a summer. They pay for usage of the pool, et cetera. So I think that's kind of what we need to look at.
And that would be, more of a council committee, because then council can say on this committee, each of the regular sports users can, the director or their appointee can sit and then have a say in what goes on there. So, but we need more information to try to figure out why, because there might have been a purpose and we just might not know it.
Yeah.
And when we find the purpose, it might be like, oh, well, that makes sense.
well, we're blessed with very good players right now, having been interacting with those organizations for a couple of decades now. It kind of rolls with different people when you get different results with different people. It's like the people who are there now have only been there a few years. And there were some years when the people who were organizing or running those were problematic.
Yes.
I do-
Softball was an issue in years past.
And so has BYPA,
Yeah.
so has People Football. So, I mean, we're talking like using the money inappropriately. We're talking about all sorts of
And
craziness.
And, if we had a village committee that they sat on, even though the leadership changes, maybe then with that group and that institution around it, and they come and they find out, well, here's why we're doing things the way we are, it may help that prevent that decline should, future leadership changes in future years.
So I would like to put this on the agenda with your approval as an action item to discuss further at the next service meeting.
And that should give us time to get a hold of Jim and see what he recalls about why
Yeah, he was on a year ago.
it was set up that way.
Yeah, so then, you put that on,
Yes, I've got an action item.
and then I guess the read mercy is next.
beverage stand, a
Okay.
beverage stand at center of the festival on Friday evening and Saturday. So
What you call it, a beer garden.
it's a beer garden. That's it. So we are going to be,
And you do not need to be YOB to the beer garden.
Beer garden. In fact, it's prohibited.
Yes,
and.
chief will have issues if you do that.
And thank you, Chief Tressi, for offering to help out with that as well.
Yes.
So we appreciate that. Other than that.
So then we'll go on from reports to old business with something, you've got a contract for the Baltimore residential building. Mr. Tool, will you
Yes, wait.
run that?
I met with, Missy and I met with Bill on Monday, that was Friday, excuse me, met with him on Friday. We went through the process because we're already registered with the state, which we are. And because we have detailed processes in place, once we sign this contract, we're ready to go. So I would ask tonight, and I'm sorry I got it to you late, but he just got it to me and Jeff turned it around really quickly for me. Because I would like to get this, this passed as an emergency. I know you don't like emergencies, but I really do think that we need this in place. So I would ask tonight that someone sponsor it so we can take it to council.
So, yeah, this is the, that would be ordinance 2022-21.
Correct.
Ordinance authorizing. For the field services.
Currently, he does our commercial inspections through Fairfield County, an arrangement, but this will be directly with the Village of Baltimore.
I'll sponsor.
Yes, technically you should make a motion to send this to
Oh.
council. And then,
Oh,
and then
what am I making a motion for?
just to send this.
Don't send it to
council,
council.
And then by making a motion, we'll also make it responsible.
Okay, I move. That we send 2022-21 to council.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Carries, send ordinance 2022-21 to council for approval. Now the Boulder Road update.
I don't know, we did attend, I did attend a Walnut Township meeting with some of the residents, at which time they picked a spokesperson to go talk to the Fairfield County engineer. But I was unable to attend the meeting that they had last Thursday, so I really don't have much of an update other than I believe that Robert has asked the townships to come in and look at an area under their road that they believe that there is something going on. Were you there,
Yeah,
Darla?
it was.
Thanks.
They did. Robert and Walnut Township, I don't know the people's names, but anyway, apparently there is a clean out, whatever, it's totally full of mud. And this is gonna be between Roach and Hannah, that ditch there. They are, I'm trying to be politically correct here. They're wanting to get it done and they're wanting to do it themselves and they're wanting to do this and they're wanting to do that. And
When
when
you
it
say
clean up,
they, who's the,
yeah,
not the homeowner?
well, yeah, Randy.
Okay.
He's wanting the place behind his cleaned out. He's tired of it. He wants it done. And apparently we're not doing anything, so. Anyhow, so they're wanting to clean up behind him and go through and get that ditch between Roach taken care of and blow it that way, or blow it that way. Robert was supposed to meet with someone and they're gonna get a pump to pump the water. Anyway, Steve Kenny was there, Weaver was there, Ted and I were there, Roger was there. Hans was there, Lester was there. My neighbor Damien was there. There was quite a bit of people there. And they discussed it for quite a bit, but it's about all I gotta say. They wanna blow out that big thing that's mud, and they're wanting to do it, and they want us all to pitch in money. We're like going, wait.
So my question, just for clarification, for me, that's all private property, that's not village infrastructure.
Correct. And what they're going to be working on is really located in the township, from what I'm understanding from Robert. So that was my next question.
Hannah's
Straddles
not,
the line. It straddles the line.
yeah, Hannah's not, Hannah's in the town. Supposedly. Anyway, he's he's in town, so I don't know if that's part of our responsibilities. I don't know that. And then I think between Roach and Hannah is on the line.
That is the line. The
Okay.
line is right there somewhere without surveying. It's hard to say which side it's on.
So they don't know if the culvert under the road is crushed, if that's what's holding everything up, but Mr. Lester says he has about 3 inches in his drain that's going back to the creek or back to Price's, and we've got 15 in ours. So something's stuck between us and that area.
So, but that's kind of what Robert said, and then he said that it'd be, the township said to give them a couple of weeks and they'd be out and do the looking
The
at.
culvert area, because is the culvert us or Wilmot? Because Han is in, right?
I believe he believes that this thing with the township is going to, once they find out what's going on there, will be one of the first things that they want to look at. So
The
I don't,
township.
South
Yeah.
side would be in, but the north side would be out.
so I don't know if we
The
want
line
to keep
isn't
this on the
straight.
agenda or
Yeah.
if we want to take it off, or if you want to keep it on so we have a rolling minutes of what we
I
talked.
suppose, yeah, it would be a decent idea to keep it on its own business so we can kind of get it
Monitor
monitored.
it.
Yeah.
I know as Holder Road resident and not council, but we'd appreciate it to keep it on. It needs to be
Okay.
done. We're in the town just like everybody else is, you know, water needs to go.
Right.
And it's just getting worse.
Okay.
To Parking at the LU Athletic.
Correct.
Old business.
Yes, it is old business. What we have here, Mr. Foreman asked me last meeting to make sure that I had the blueprints here, and I did bring them. These are the blueprints that I received from Sands and Decker. One of the things that I want to point out is that you will see on this blueprint, you can come up and take a look at it. There are no approvals. The blueprints that we get for projects, we have signature approvals. So every time a project is submitted, we sign the approval saying that we've looked at the blueprints and we do some, these are just some projects. Even my process, even when I do just zoning here in the village and someone submits a crude layout, you'll notice I'll date and sign it. To me, that's the way everyone knows when a blueprint information has been approved. So the last piece that I have here to look at, Deb asked me if I had the information for Fairfield County as to what they looked at, because Fairfield County only looked at the structure itself. That's all they inspected. And this is that document. This is my original, so don't anybody take it, but if you would like to see it, that is just, they only did the structure, nothing else. So this is information if you want to look at it.
So none of the, I think the crucial piece of information is that none of the parking arrangements were submitted were approved with the approval of their building.
That is correct. That is just strictly the building.
So the default is parking as laid out by the ordinance.
Well, and I think when you look at the plans anyway, it doesn't include any change to the parking there. And then, that's on one of my dog walking routes. And over the past couple of weeks, I've noticed people don't even use the parking ballards. They are now parallel parking in front of them. And I've got pictures from 6 a.m. this morning where someone was parallel parked in them, and then last week or 2 weeks ago, there were a couple of cars at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night. They don't even use it. They park like they used to.
But will they during football season?
I
When
mean,
school's in, they definitely have.
And that takes up a lot of space.
So they offered a sort of compromise with some of it being parallel parking and some of it being.
Yeah, they suggested that they curb and parallel park from the west end of the property to Kugler, and then switch back to the head end parking from Kugler east. That was their proposal, as I understood it. Does anybody else? know
that's
that?
kind of how I understood it. Because we talked about that at the last meeting, I think. Terry told us that.
And then in the head end parking, the ballards would remain. But they're in the street.
They're not in the traffic pattern. They're on the pavement, yes. When you drive up and down that street, you're not driving 3 or 4 feet from the
Right.
ballards. You're many feet from the ballards.
I think it's an issue that we need to make a decision on, and this is my stance. And of course, I will do what you tell me to do. We're asking, there was no permission asked to put something into a street or a right of way that belongs to the village, number one. So this may set a precedence that if somebody wants to put something in front of their house in the street, you know, that could be an issue. We have to treat everyone the same. And I just would have hoped that we could have come up with a better solution to work through this. But my gut feel is everybody has their feet dug in and nobody wants to come up with a better solution, which means that there's going to be somebody unhappy walking away from this. But I believe we need to do the right thing.
So I think a while back, we were going to have Jeff send a letter, but then we held off on that
Mhm.
because then there was the meeting where they did the.
Well, we thought we were going to do something, and then that's when they offered, I think it's just a few spaces that are parallel.
If we are going to ask them to remove them, just remove them, what needs to happen from us right now?
I think we asked them to remove them before. And then I think I was pretty clear when I said we might have told them to remove them. So the next step would be to have Jeff send them the letter that they need to remove them. That carries the weight of the attorney behind it.
Where the fence is and where these parking ballards are, how much space, so the fence is on their property. The parking ballards are clearly in the street, the right of way. Street. So if, does it make a difference if they push those ballards back so that they're simply running end to end rather than at that odd angle? Does that change anything? Because I think their goal is to protect the fence.
I think if they move them back, they'll be on the ground, and my understanding is that the ground will not support them like the.
You were saying turn them straight instead of.
Yeah.
angle.
To make
Oh,
it-
you're saying
turn them
to
straight.
make it
And
curve.
put them at the very edge of that. I mean, I don't know if that's even a possibility
that-
again.
I think that was a suggestion at one point.
One of the suggestions that I had taken to them was to put a sidewalk in there. In many of the fields that you go to around the county, if you look, they'll have a sidewalk And the sidewalk will be up and they use that to park the cars into. But that was unacceptable because they said it was too much money, number one. And number two, that the bigger trucks like the big trucks, and I see big trucks over there all the time. They overextend the sidewalk, which I still say they overextend the ballards also, or the parking blocks, whatever you want to call them. But again, I think it's
Because I remember it's not the first time it's been mentioned for the Ballard side.
we've talked about that. That would give them head in
They
parking.
would just have to go back to the straight heading parking. And the angle.
It was my understanding, maybe I misunderstood. It was my understanding that they couldn't do that because it had to be in the concrete or in the asphalt. Is
No,
that?
the angle parking frees up more space for traffic.
That's-
So the
yeah,
angle
that's why
parking
they-
is like an advantage because you're taking a 20-foot vehicle and having it only stick out 15 feet because you've angled it. So that was their objective. But clearly, we have the authority to make them move anything in the right of way if we deem it in the way. The question is it in the way? Do we need to make them move it? Is my opinion. So everybody pretty much knows how I feel about it, but I'm only one member of council. I'm not counting.
Did we ever do a measurement, so if we took it before, put an extended cab vehicle, dually, whatever, with a hitch on it, has anyone gone over there and pull one of those out there, one of our village trucks, measure, is there enough room for emergency equipment to get down through there? I think that was one of the other concerns. I mean, I'm just saying, did anybody, would that be a possibility, do a measurement? Can the emergency equipment get down through there safely? I mean, that would be the first.
Has anyone talked to the fire department about this?
No, they haven't, because I asked.
And I think even the school acknowledged that from Coomber West, it was too tight. That was why they said let's do this.
And, Angled parking aside, my issue is, like Terry said, we can't set the precedent just because they're the school. They don't get to do what they want. There is a process. All they had to do was follow the process. It's that simple.
From just a resident, I heard you say it's a cost for them. Wow, it would have been nice for them to have that sidewalk, because it's kind of a safety issue.
But
Yeah,
if you
all the
see
people-
in that drawing, there is a sidewalk. And he just said, oh, we're not, Phoebe and Dr. Johnson said, we're not putting that sidewalk in. But in that drawing, there is the sidewalk in front of the athletic building.
I mean, because you have all those people that then come out into that street
They
and
walk
are
into the
walking, which
street.
is already narrow. I mean,
Mhm.
it would have been safer to have that sidewalk there so people could go to the front of the cars and walk rather than coming out to the street. But that's another thing that
At that point, they're building a permanent sidewalk in the right of way, as opposed to. moving it.
well, they would have had to make sure that it was.
Actually, I think the
In the
Sidewalk
I
would
think
be
the
on
side- I
their,
think the sidewalks on
on
their property.
would be
On
right in
their
front of their fence.
But if it came all the way down, it would still be, or would be the right of way.
Well, because the road curve, it might come in a little bit where they have to get. So most of it on their property, some of it, depending on, it depends on how far they extended it down to. If they just did it property to,
And they definitely had the angle parking on the road. So I'm not sure, other than drawing a picture, this is what we plan to do, what do you think? I'm not sure how you go about asking, other than drawing a picture, this is what we plan to do.
well, make them a deal. There's sidewalks on the drawing too.
And,
So if it's- if
and
it's
I'm
on the
pretty sure
drawing-
they will put that in a heartbeat.
Well, then when we asked them to put it in, why did they say it's too much money? We're not gonna put it in. Dr. Johnson, put in your sidewalk. No, it's too much money. So
Which I think would be a
And they're-
huge
they're-
advantage again.
they're unapproved drawings, but if we're gonna make the argument, it's on the drawing, then put in the stupid sidewalk.
But the parking lot, like the drawing shows the sidewalk with the curb, with the parking lot.
It shows it there, but it's not listed in the description anywhere. And you know this, you've done drawings for buildings. You get landscape trees and different things to make it look pretty, and 50% of it goes away when you get it done. So, but if we're gonna say angled parking is in the drawing, well, so is a sidewalk.
So if we want Jeff to send a letter what do we do? Do we need to make a motion or what? Okay, I move that we have Jeff send the letter.
Are we just asking that they remove the parking blocks or that they no longer angle park? Or are we taking away headed parking altogether? I guess that's what exactly are we?
The issue is that the bollards are in
The street.
village property and we want them.
Yeah.
So the parking the way that it is fine. The parking can stay away. All the way down or partway? I mean, because we all agree it's in the way Coomer West.
It's,
I think we should address it all.
oh, yeah, it makes sense. And I don't know that we've ever,
We should be clear.
yeah, we, other than the head-in parking that we've done in recent years to help get more cars on there, we've never said head-in or angled or straight in.
Head in would make more sense, so you don't have those trucks backing in.
When
front of the fence.
Yeah, do we have head-in parking requirement there?
I think that was.
I think,
We talked about.
There's no
it in Nelson
signage?
Park. I don't think we talked about that.
Yeah,
I mean, we haven't really regulated it, and, I mean, it's busy down there on football games, but it seems to self-regulate as well.
Well, if I could say one thing that, and that's my concern, is we haven't been over there. You know, people that are coming to those events, see their kids play and do all that, it's not their fault that they can't find a place to park. The angle parking, if we don't have that angle parking, you're gonna have such a nightmare all the way from Washington to Oak Street to everywhere else, like you've not seen around here for a long, long time. And I don't know, when I came here in 2007, on Friday nights, we'd have one officer doing something, trying to regulate people who were parked in front of other people's driveways, and the list goes on and on and on. I don't see any way that that could revert back to anything other than what it is angle. Because again, unless they want to build a parking lot somewhere on, which I'm pretty sure they don't, then we are going to have a mess. But if I lived in that area and all of a sudden I'm back to where I can't even get in my driveway on a Friday night when there's a football game, I would lose my mind. And, you know, and people over in that area are really supportive of the school and everything goes on. They try to make sure that they work with people over there. But I really think we're creating a nightmare if we don't do everything we can to keep that angle parking.
We could still have angle parking and they don't have to be in the street though, right?
Oh, yeah. I brought this up. This is just, and this is, they were kind of talking about, we had a little conversation. So where those parking blocks are located is in the right of way, and Terry's absolutely right. They should not be there. Okay. But if you visualize this, so if this is the edge of the street and they're faced like this, all you do is you lift them up, you come forward so that they further, the most northern part of that block is now off the pavement. It only has to be 6 inches, whatever. And then you take this and you rotate it like you're going to pivot it around so it's straight, like I think you referred to it as a curve. The curve runs down through there on that side off of the blacktop. You can take those angles, and this is something that sometimes we get locked in on. When we think of angle parking, we think, it has to be something like this. You can change these angles. You can swing these angles and make them steeper. If we're worried about oversized parking, the further you change that angle, the further it pulls the rear of the vehicle around out of the street. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you're saying,
Yeah.
make a curve with the ballards and then
Yeah.
paint the lines.
Paint
to-
the lines in.
Okay.
Because again, I can see this turn into a nightmare when we have events over there. If we don't do it, if we don't take due diligence and do it the way it should be done. And we're not just talking about the village, and we're not just talking about the school. We're talking about however many hundred people live in that little area over there that are going to come home on a Friday night and not be able to get their driveways. They're not going to be able to park in front of their houses. They're not going to be able to unload groceries because there's no parking. It doesn't seem like a lot of parking there, but trust me, that makes a huge difference if you lose.
So the motion needs to be ballards off the right away, creating.
Well, I was gonna say before, I mean, we're getting short on time before school starts back and football starts back. So maybe we still have the motion, but caveat it with what the chief just said. Maybe the middle ground is, hey, school, you turn the ballards to make the curve, and the village will come in and paint your angled lines.
I'm okay with
If there's
that.
angled lines there, we would probably have to code it to be able to paint it. Because there's angled lines there.
Did they paint them?
I don't think so.
I don't think they have
Oh,
angled
okay.
lines.
Yeah.
It's just the curve.
You use the block.
You use the block.
Established.
So
They're really tight.
you know, they move the ballards and turn them into a curve, and then we can go in and, because we don't need the big company to do that. Tim and the guys can do those lines, right?
Well, as reasonable as Griffin is, if we can get this around, I would rather have Griffin
Just
just
have
do
You see
it.
people with the right equipment paint those versus people that don't have the right equipment paint.
Fair
those.
enough.
Trust me.
So then,
I think that's a good.
so then, we'll go in and we can paint the lines and then if they say no to that, then we can have Jeff send a letter.
And are we? So the curve would be the distance, and then we would paint parallel from Kumler West and paint head and angled from Kumler East.
You mean from from,
Kumler, I might have the wrong road.
yeah, Coomer is the road that runs in front of it. So from the
Mhm.
field, well, they went from Fremont Street.
Fremont is that the street that comes in from the south,
It comes in from the
Yes.
south, right at the edge of the field house.
and you can see that the situation changes west of that.
Yeah.
Clearly.
So from Fremont back to
Yes.
Brown, we would paint angled, and then the couple of spaces in front of the field house from Fremont up towards Yenser would be the parallel parking.
So instead of having a motion to have Jeff write a letter, would you rather I reach out with an email on what we decided tonight?
We could, well, because then council at the next, the next council meeting, if you get nothing, could make that motion.
So start out with just an email from me to,
They move the ballards, we paint the lines.
yes.
We compromise. Using your parking.
Get it off the road, right?
Yeah,
Correct. Move on to, our driveway approach, I think that you took care of that.
Yes.
already.
Yes.
So we have new business, we have proposed new storm line.
Mhm.
Everybody in the area, we've got some pictures.
Right, so in your packet, you have some pictures of, the first picture I wanted you to look at is this picture here. And the only reason that I like this picture is number one, there's a lot of information here. First of all, this shows you that the pipe we're talking about is an old clay tile. So it's not even, our plastic pipe that we use, number one. Number two, all of the stuff, white stuff you see around there was foam. At some point in time, and I have a box of rags out here that Tim brought, he wanted me to show you, but you all know what box of rags look like. But at some point in time, prior to the lady that owns the property now behind Brandy's house, a gentleman was not happy about water coming from the Liberty Street area and draining onto his property. So at some point in time, not during my reign, he stuffed it full of rags and filled it full of foam, which automatically created a dam. So consequently, for all these years, when everybody couldn't figure out why there was water standing over there, it was because this damage. And Tim, this is a picture after they went down and tried to back it out and clean it out and et cetera. So this supposedly quote unquote was well known in the village, but I don't know why nobody did anything because it has impacted a lot of people. So the second drawing you see, it's entitled current drainage flow. You will see where that yellow square is on that property, that dot is where we have located our drain, our catch basin. And right now it goes north across that property over to that X. Where that X is on this line, there is a drain pipe that is broken and above the ground. So what was happening, what water was getting through all of this damming that was going on the inside has somehow damaged that other farm tile in this owner's property, which needs to be repaired. So we did some brainstorming. We did some dye testing to make sure the water coming from the alley was going there indeed, and it is. So on the second page, you'll see a proposed new line. This will be a part of our I&I projects, storm projects. As you can see, we're going to keep the same catch basin there. And it is going to, we would like to do two actions. The first action is to head west towards Maple Street. And we would like to directionally bore a new line. So we were directionally bore underneath Maple Street, because if you remember, we just paved it. So we will be directionally bored right to about 1615, where it will meet up with another part of the drainage system in the village that flows freely. Then we would like to go in the middle of the undeveloped alley to the south and put in a line that would go then to that storm drop. The purpose of that is because that alley is very low there. And as a part of our I&I project, if you remember, we were going to start notification to everybody whose sump pumps go in to our collection system. We know of at least 2 sump pumps in this 2-block area that feeds into the collection system. So what we will do, this will be the start of our projects. We will do the education to the residents in this kind of 1-block area, 2-block area, to say, we will be doing an inspection. We believe that your sump pump is hooked into the, village collection system. And now we have, I think it was Mr. Foreman who said, we can't tell them to unhook unless we have a place for them to hook up.
I didn't say that.
A place for the water to go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Put the water.
Place to put the
Let's
water.
go along with that.
All right. Okay.
It's going to go somewhere.
Okay. So what we will do then is that we will go in and put, we will do inserts all the way along the back of these properties, so that when the people get ready to hook in with their laterals, they'll be able to hook right into the storm line. So this is going to immensely help with all of the issues that we are experiencing over there, from that broken farmer's drain tile being plugged up to the present. Now, the person that really has it really bad is a house that sits on the corner of North Company and that alley. I mean, we probably will have to do something to her yard as far as elevation wise, because the water just stands there so much.
I know which house, I think, right across from
The little
you.
gray house
Yeah.
underwater.
Yeah.
There was a pond there and mosquitoes were awesome right
Terrible.
now.
So we will put a drop there, and we will do a grade to her property and to be a part of this project. Now, I'm a big believer, and it's always like I tell my staff, once we say we're going to do these projects and we budget for them, then we should stick to the list of projects we're going to do. In this case, we had not assigned any I&I projects other than our flow meters and the education that we wanted to do to tell everybody where we were going. So we have, looking for my notes. We have a total of around 67,000 that is unappropriated. Here we are. We have a total of 74,497 in the storm sewer fund. Now that's part of the money on your bills that you get for storm sewer, right? So we had not did any allocation of any of those funds for 2023, other than the flow meters, which were extremely less expensive than we thought they were going to be. So under the repairs in that line item, or that fund, there's 67,500. We've only spent 3,147. So that means we have left $64,352 in that fund right now currently that is built up. So this Liberty Company Maple Storm line, with the directional boring, with all of the pipe that we will need and all of the miscellaneous expenses, we believe that we can do this project for $32,000, which would be not quite half of what we have there. And I bring it to council because number one, it's under 50, so I don't have to bid it. But I just want you to know that I'm very serious when I say we're doing these projects, we are. And this is a new project, a one-off project. And I just wanted you here tonight at service to know that that's what I would like to do.
Let me form my question. So if we're going to move the line to meet up with another line under Maple Street,
Mhm.
and I like the fact that we're not cutting Maple Street, which we just paid. But would it be beneficial to us to cut a little bit of Maple Street and put in some drops along Maple Street as well? Because I don't think Maple Street has any drops.
They do. Maple Street does have drops. Maple Street is in a good angle and we have no issues with Maple Street. The issue is right there on the corner of North Company and that alley. I'm not sure if that alley's Maple Street or what it is, but that is where the biggest issue is, and there will be a new drop
A
there.
new drop.
So no, Maple Street is their water is perfect, and that's why we're going to tie into that system that flows
Now I want
underneath.
to pay attention again. I've never seen
Yeah, that
drops on
one way
Maple.
that's right here, that's West Maple.
Yeah.
There's a, yeah. So this is the consensus of staff, and I believe that it's a good project. I believe it's a good step forward in getting rid of some of our IONI and storm. And like Brandy said, it's quite the issue over there when it rains. It goes away, but it takes a while.
It's gotten worse.
Right.
over Literally the past year, I've never seen it flooding.
What we will probably do is we will tell the owner of the property that we're abandoning that pipe that needs to be fixed. We will fix the pipe for her because I do believe that's our responsibility. But we will do a wait see to see if anybody else flows into that. So we make sure there are just not enough maps to, that's why you have a drawing on this map of where the flow goes. There's just not enough to show what's there, infrastructure where it goes. We believe it goes through Brandy's property though.
What's the timeline? Council says yes.
I'll start, well, some of the pipe I need, it depends. I think Tim saw Rick today. And what was your ETA on pipe?
Just a couple weeks out.
So there you go.
So you're talking end of the summer.
Yeah, Stillion's ready to go. They said they could come do it now. So we could get going on this. Stillion will be doing the directional bore. And then on those pieces that the staff can do, I have full staff now, so we should be able to do it.
Yeah.
But the laterals coming in are the responsibilities of all the property owners. They are the ones that are going to have to pay to put the laterals to drain into the new system. That is their responsibility.
Okay, you guys are gonna have to educate me. What's the difference between that and Whole Red?
Well, first of all, there is some existing,
Have somewhere to go.
structure. We have somewhere to go. We know what the issue is, and again, we are not fixing any lateral lines. We're putting in a main line, and are repairing the main line that's there because all of these people will have to pay for their own laterals, and put those in. So, but
That I
the
did-
project like this
Yeah,
on
that's-
Holder would be,
But here, there may be a problem with some or one or two property owners with laterals.
Mhm.
Right.
I know, and I am gonna, this is selfish on.
Right, no,
I know.
no,
It's
you're
like, I
fine,
don't- I don't
darling.
see
You
the
asked
difference.
away.
I don't see the difference
not.
between making that a priority and not making Whole Red a priority. We're in town too.
in order to fix Holder, we have to go out of the village.
I understand that problem too.
And we
That's
gotta
where-
figure out what the
that's where
problem
our-
I
really
think,
is.
first of all, figure out what the problem is. We don't know. And that's the issue on Holder.
Just like we found the pipe that was plugged up and
We found the problem.
Holder may not be as big a problem as we think it is once we start looking for the problem.
Yes.
Right.
And maybe some of the work that the township's going to do is going to alleviate that. But my issue is I am not an engineer, but I believe there are multiple problems out there. I don't think there's just one answer for all. I don't think there's an answer for Kenny's farm. I don't think there's an answer, the same answer for all of the residents there. You know, I just think that there's more than one issue that's there. I don't think that it's like this, put in a line, attach, and you're ready to go. I think we need to find out, we need to do some root cause analysis. And I'm hoping that's what, you know, the township will come up with once they look at it. And I know that's not comforting for those that are on Boulder Road, especially since we've been talking about it. But this project here is, what did I say? It was like 30 some max. There is no way that project out there won't be astronomical.
But we do have storm line out Boulder Road.
Some.
So there, correct me if I'm wrong though, so a homeowner out there could run a tile from their backyard where it floods
Correct.
into our
They
collection
could tap
system
into the collection
and tap
system.
into it
Yes,
to,
yes.
to do that.
that is a
And where
correct
is that
statement.
at?
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I
You'd have
don't
to go
either.
across other people's property to do that.
Well,
Uh,
what side does
Good
the,
question.
I don't know what side it runs down.
It's clear back up at the very beginning of Boulder Road. It's not out.
Is it already on
So-
private
so-
property?
So if it doesn't, so
There's only
So the
private
storm
property
water-
between those homeowners and that.
like,
storm.
so the homeowners that have the stormwater main on their property could tile into it.
And again, where is that? Does Leaper have that?
I don't know how far down it goes.
That's what we have to figure out, how far down does it go?
I just want that to be as important as that. I mean, I know that there's things you gotta do and whatever, but I know that the residents out there are a little ticked off.
Well, there's a whole nother one, and I don't know if it's completely on private property or not, but on the south side of Boulder Road, there was a large tile installed from Owen Keller's property all the way through.
Yeah, well, that's not working so well.
That's not.
And they even graded it and stuff. We still have flowing right across Holder Road coming back to us. I mean, somebody's gonna
Yeah, I
hydroplane
saw it
out there
running
at
from
one
south to
time.
north, which I thought was
Yeah.
really weird.
Somebody's gonna hydroplane and run right into a tree.
So
I'm trying to find out where it's at, and that's not happening,
So
so.
that's okay. You
Yeah.
can,
No, I'm gonna take this as an action item because I think it's important that you know this information. So I will find out what we have where, you know.
because I don't know where we would dump it south, because we'd have to trunk the line and it could back up, but that's a potential middle ground fix depending on what the township comes up with. If we extend the stormwater line down to the village limits, that could give the residents a place to tap into, but then I don't know, we need the engineering study to know that, what that would do, because at the village line, it
May
would
not be
cap.
bad.
And so it would backflow everybody back up depending on how much water.
Well, we know that the topography is different out there because we have grinder pumps. So we know that it's not, so
Right.
we can gravity feed it. But I will find out where it is, if it's along the road, if it's in village property. And if it is, how would you, if you tap into it? I mean, so there's a pipe
and the
there and you
guys out
tap
there may
into
know
it.
that. I don't.
But the pipe, if the pipe's running uphill, water doesn't run uphill, so it's
Right.
not gonna get you
It's
anything
not
but
gonna
a
help.
pipe full of water. So we may think about this, and I'm speaking out of turn, but we could talk about this. Remember I said in September, OPWC project is due. You know, if we could act quickly enough to come up with a root cause and a solution before, to give an engineering company time before September 1st, maybe we could come up with something. But this is the kicker. OPWC will not cover projects on private property. So this would have to be just basically a storm line coming and then people tying into it. I mean, that's gonna take engineering. I would have to reach out to someone to say, you know,
Yeah.
this is what we got right now. This is what we need. Will it work with the elevation we have? That'll be a cost.
Yeah.
And that cost we probably could pay for out of the stormwater fund. I mean, Brian's not here, but I'm assuming we could pay for that. So if that's something you want me to do, I could reach out to, and that's no promise, but I could reach out to the engineering company. They are going to be in town on July 11th. I could have them walk up there and look at it and say, what would it cost to tell me how this project goes? The project that Mr. Morrison had laid out before, which everybody thought it was a grant, wouldn't have flown because it was village, township, and it was cross private property. So we got to make sure that if we're going to get a grant fund or whatever, we're on village property so that you all can lateral in. Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
And I'm sorry, I took you away from here.
You're gonna take me away from anybody. I think it's a good question. I think it's a vital concern that that I'll be getting a phone call in the morning anyhow. So I'm okay with that. And I'm okay with doing the research. And like I said, they'll be in town on the 11th. I can, if this committee would like me to do that, I can do it. Or if you want to go to council and have council say, we make a motion to see what you can find out, I can do that too.
I think it makes sense because while the township's working on it, we don't know what causes the townships on it, and then we can at least get an engineering side to extend the stormwater line down that way.
And at least when someone like Darla asks the question, where does it start? Where does it go when it's done? Instead of everybody standing around saying, well, I think
Yeah.
there was a culvert over here. Oh, no, there's a
Yeah.
culvert over here. You know,
Yeah.
at least we'll have it documented and have it out. So I can do that if I'm directed to do so.
So, with that, the proposed storm line is a good thing, and then we've got an action item, checking the whole road again, if you want, which is gonna stay on the agenda.
To have her, it's not a lot of money, it'll probably be a couple $1,000s.
I would say it'd be a couple of thousand. And again,
But
I know we
it's,
have enough in this storm to cover it.
a motion from the committee.
Mhm.
I don't think council has to do it, even though everybody's here.
Yeah.
But a motion from the committee, just go ahead and ask the engineering
Engineers,
to do the storm.
examine existing and see how much additional could be routed to it.
Sounds like the motion.
I just
That's
wrote
what I was
it.
gonna say.
I'll make a motion that we have engineering examine the existing and see how much of the road could be rerouted towards the existing storm sewer.
Schaffner second.
I have a motion made, properly seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Right.
Aye. Motion carries.
And now then, Terry, do you need a motion? You want a motion for the other project you were talking about?
Only because it's not a part of my 2022 projects.
All right, so, motion for the new proposed storm line on Liberty Main Road.
Foreman makes a motion that we move forward on the company street storm sewer project.
Schaffner seconds.
Motion properly made, seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Two motions out of committee.
Thank you. And I will get right on that tomorrow morning first thing. And then I have one more thing for service tonight. You will notice in your packet, you have an ordinance modifying the water and sewer rules and regulations. It will be ordinance 2022-20. And this can go, I asked this to be, asked Jeff to create this for 3 reads with emergency language. So we'll read it 3 times, and then on the 3rd read, we'll go into emergency language. What it is basically doing is under section C of section 4 of the requirements for sanitary sewer. You will see there are 2 now subtopics. One is gravity sewer and one is new force main sewer. So these are, we already have these in our fee schedule and they were covered, but not in our rules. And when we had our pre-construction meeting last 2 weeks ago with a developer, with one of the people that bought on NG56, I realized that it was not in our water rules and regs. So the team sat down and the 2 Tims put these together. This would just be in black and white than what we would say verbiage wise. So that's the only big change to the water and sewer. Again, the other change is on the back of that page. I have been in contact with ODOT because our sewer line on 256 is on the south side of the road. It'll have to be directionally bored underneath 256 to get to the north side. ODOT says all permits to do that have to be pulled by the village. So that means I'll have to apply for the permits, and I've already got my account and I'm all ready to go on it. So we did add that to this so that everybody knows whose responsibility is what when it comes to the sewer and water on 256. So again, this can go to 3 reads with the 3rd read carrying emergency language. And so,
So all that means is once it's passed after the 3rd reading, it goes into effect.
right, goes into effect immediately instead of waiting 30 days.
We need a sponsor.
Mhm.
Performance bond.
That should be about all.
I apologize. There's just a lot going on in the village and we should all really be happy with everything that's going on. And I appreciate everybody's patience. And again, questions are good and I want to do the right thing. So, you know, Darla, your question was very much in line and I'd be more than appreciative to chase that down for you.
Appreciate it.
So anybody have anything else to come before? Business. So our next meeting will be 4th Monday, July 25th at 6 p.m.
Who makes a motion with adjourn?
Shuffler seconds.
Motion Berkeley made and seconded. Fair side. Adjourn. All right.
Brandy, you got
It's what,
14 minutes.
7:14?
All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the safety committee meeting. Let's go ahead and call it into order. Roll call, please.
Dupree,
Present.
Reedy,
Present?
Keller.
Present, we also have Chief Tussey, village administrator there, and council members Foreman, Reedy, Schaffner, and Cosgrove. Actually, yes. So I included you in my list of others. So first of all, would someone like to move to approve the minutes from the May 23rd?
I move that we approve the minutes of May 23rd.
A second?
All right, visitors? Do we have any visitors?
Got voted.
Oh, I'm sorry. We need to go ahead and vote to approve the minutes. Yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? There you go, unanimous.
Great, all right. So sorry, let's go ahead and let's move on to visitors. We don't have any visitors, okay. Goals, we don't have anything listed for the goals. Reports.
Yes, real quick. Right now, I have my water manager and my sewer manager updating their emergency plans. This is for anything from a tornado to the power goes out, to we get a blizzard and et cetera. All requirements of the EPA. So again, they're in the process of doing it. We should be finished, I'm gonna say by the end of the year because the EPA asks for a lot of information. So it's a lessons in due diligence, trust me. In July sometime, and I haven't got my invite yet, the Safety Council for Fairfield County will begin again after the big recess because of COVID. The attendance is going to be mandatory. We have to attend at least 10 meetings, but this year they're not going to require the CEO to attend. So Joey, his father, Joey or Mr. Little, are our representatives, so one of them will go. The reason why we want to do this is number one, we get good safety topics to talk about in our meetings, but this is where we also need to attend to get our rebate from BWC back. And each year we're lucky to get that to be able to buy safety equipment. So that should be starting in July.
That's it?
I'm done.
Wow. report. Chief Justin?
Feel bad now. As you know, a car S1 had a significant amount of damage. It's in the shop. Got an update on it today. They've had it for a week. They're saying at least another 2 weeks, maybe 3 to get it repaired. So we're still operating 2 cars. We actually got an officer hired. He's took his physical today and is scheduled to do a stress test. Wednesday is what we last got. We get a date on that. We are getting an outrageous amount of complaints about small cars, referred to as small foreign cars, that have a loud exhaust. Basically, they modified the exhaust so that they can pull a little lever and it sounds like a shotgun or something going off. It makes it backfire. So we got complaints today. We sat down in the area for an extended period of time. And we didn't see anything. So I don't know if they're somehow monitoring. I don't know that. We have a 0 tolerance on any equipment violations, especially exhaust pipe violations. So we're working that. It's in the South Main area, but today they were leaving from there, driving over around the swimming pool and making all this noise, trying to show off, I think. So the Festival Beer Garden, we've got that signed and ready to go. I was told that today the no parking signs were going to be posted on Short Street. That was the one where we had the issue with couldn't get it out of the driveway. Anytime we post new signs, our policy has always been for 30 days, we put warning citations on that says, hey, just so you know, you can't do this anymore. And that gives everybody a chance to kind of get into the mindset that we can't park there. So that'll start tomorrow. We put a public service announcement on the Baltimore Police Facebook. I was getting a ton of phone calls about what type of vehicles can you drive on a village street. And so I kind of defined that and said to them, here's what it is. It has to be a licensed, by the state of Ohio, it has to be a licensed, insured, fully outfitted vehicle capable of operating safely on a street or highway. Now, what this came from, we got 2 complaints on people, and I don't know how many kids we're talking about. I have no idea. But apparently a golf cart was zooming down Market Street and had 4 or 5 kids sitting in that little rear facing seat, which is not a good thing. We're gonna have people falling off that left and right. So we wanted to make sure people understood if the kids fall under the prerequisites for having to have a car seat, they have got to be in a car seat. And I know it sounds silly, but they actually make car seats for those things. So we want to get that out there. Got a lot of positive feedback on it. And we are having issues with, and I've got 2 phone calls, and I don't know where this came from, about the village being ATV friendly, which I discovered means that we basically don't enforce any laws on anything that's an ATV. And I said, that really doesn't work here for us. So the person I talked to seemed to be knowledgeable. I said, thank you very much. And hopefully that's the end of that. We had a complaint. We've had several complaints. There's a house that's on Summer's Choice, and we've talked about it here before. And the opening for their driveway dumps out on Summer's Choice. Well, when there's no pool, there's no issue. When there's a pool, everybody parks in front of her driveway, or they park right directly across from the driveway, and there's no possible way you can turn in and out. So we're looking at a couple options. We've been enforcing that heavily down there. So far, we've been okay with keeping it open. We're going to review it. I want to talk to Tim and see what kind of signs he's got in stock down there. We may have to put a no parking between signs or something down there to get that fixed for it. And finally, Lieutenant Rogers got a confirmation on his SRO training. So he is scheduled to attend that. And he's been working on projects that we do during the year for kids in the school. So we've got most of that stuff ordered and ready to go. And that's all I have.
Chief, I have a quick question. question. So in regards to, you talked about the exhaust systems on the smaller cars. Do we also try to enforce that with the large diesel trucks?
If it is anything that is a
With that
modified,
exhaust and
yeah, if it's
that-
a modified exhaust system, it's illegal. It's that simple. Both, it falls under two different sections, you know, but ultimately DOT, it's like bumper height. So DOT says a vehicle has a bumper height comes from the factory, thou shalt not modify that bumper height. It's the same with exhaust, it's the same with the list goes on and on. The problem here in this area is we go through cycles. Right now, we're seeing an uptick in people that are buying these big diesel trucks. And the first thing they do is they cut the whole exhaust system off. And then they put a straight pipe, and they cut a hole through the back of their $70,000 truck. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. And they absolutely, I'm telling you what, if anything, we need to get one drive by your house, you would never have a mosquito problem again. I've never seen so much smoke in my life. But I've told the guys, if we get that same deal, stop, advise that, you know, they cannot be, they are illegal to operate on a city street or highway. And some of them are kind of like taken back. I don't think they realize that. But again, education. So and I have seen
Like window tint.
window tint's another big one. People don't realize there's a little letter that says A1 on your window up here. You are not allowed to have any stickers, anything below that line. You see cars now that have a thing that says like Steelers or Cowboys. It's right at the windshield wipers. Those are all logos we decided. But we've seen a real decrease in the number of those diesel trucks from what it was this time last year. I think maybe the price of diesel fuel may have something to do with that.
We have an ordinance against exhaust brake.
Yeah.
Chief,
Jake Breaking.
how about lawnmowers? I mean, has there been any issue? Because I know there's a lot of lawnmowers that just take rides.
You talking about when they're mowing?
No, that they're in the streets just taking a ride.
See, in my area, they're on the sidewalk, the new sidewalk on the other side
Oh,
of the street,
They're,
but
they're down,
I saw,
I have a neighbor who goes every Saturday, he doesn't even mow his own lawn, but he gets on his lawnmower and goes around at least the block. And then I saw another guy doing it the other day. It was going down Washington Street.
saw that on Washington Street.
River Lavender, one road that is one road.
Yep.
How long?
Zero turn.
Oh,
Zero turn.
It wasn't even like a cub or something with a little trailer.
Clerks are just looking at the cameras and laughing.
Well, all I can tell you is that would fall under what's called a working vehicle versus a motor vehicle. Like a garbage truck is a working vehicle. There's quite a few in the definition. So I would have to really look at that. I've not come across that before.
We have everything on that side.
You have all the fun over there.
We
go
are
on
parking
everyone's
impaired.
There's no names.
There's a gentleman that used to pick up his child from elementary school in his John Deere riding lawnmower. She rode in the trailer on the back.
Wow.
I don't even know what to say.
Interesting.
All right.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
interesting. Okay, all right. Are there any other questions? We need to move on here, sorry. Old business. Old Street.
I know that we are tight on time tonight, and I'm suggesting that since Gordon Street, we have it still open for the baseball traffic and the festival coming up, that we move this to next month's agenda to discuss further.
So do I need a motion to do that? or we just wait? Okay. All right, how about new business parking of the semi-traffic restaurants?
Right. I was approached by the chief. He had a request. He wanted to know if someone could park their semi-truck tractor in their driveway. And we, at one other time, I mean, when I first came on, we had this, and we had decided that there wasn't a rule, but it was blocking the person next door trying to get out of their driveway. So I told the chief, let's take it to safety tonight, because this is now a couple times it's come up. So we can talk a little bit about what we want to do in that kind of situation.
Would
Do you
the
wanna
tractor
liberate-
Fit in the driveway?
What's that?
Would the tractor fit
Oh,
in the driveway?
Yeah, it's the person is looking to rent a house and he deadheads, he drops his trailer up at 310 and then he drives that back and forth to work. And he said, he wants to rent the house, but what he wants to do is turn around backwards and he can back it in to where the cab is pretty far in. But he asked me about it and I said, I quite honestly don't know. I know I've seen that before. Matter of fact, my mom lives on Maple and the guy across the street, he's been parking one there forever and it's no
Yeah.
issue. I mean, to us, it's
Across the
not.
street from me, there's one there.
Yeah, I just don't think, personally, I don't think it's a big deal, but I don't know if it's something I'm not gonna say it's legal or illegal until somebody tells me it's legal.
And I don't know.
Maybe,
I
we-
couldn't find anything.
as I'll say, maybe because it's come up, maybe we should just get something in an ordinance that a tractor, if it's in the driveway, is okay,
As long as it doesn't impede any.
on the street.
Visual.
And
Yes.
obviously, on the street, and obviously with a trailer is a whole different story.
I don't remember seeing anything in legislation
Mm-mm.
or being asked to prepare legislation addressing that issue. Off the top of my head, I just don't. recall.
No, I couldn't find anything either, and I did look for a long period of time, so, yeah, I think maybe I'll put something together and then go ahead and tell the gentleman that he can do it,
I
and then
mean,
we'll put
it-
something together to address it.
If we don't have an ordinance prohibiting it
do it.
right now,
Okay.
you can do it.
All right.
We've over the years had probably, since I've been here, we've always had at least, I would say a low ball would be 2 and sometimes 4 or 5 tractors that are parked. Most of them, they park them way back, up the side of the house or whatever, but
I think the only thing I remember putting into an ordinance was when we had the one ordinance Mr. Keller was on, when we talked about trailers and campers
You talk about campers.
and big industrial trailers in front of a house, like if they're unloading or loading for 24 hours, I believe that's what it is, but we never addressed, that's all I could find in ordinance wise.
Yeah, because you're gonna talk about a tractor, and if somebody has a big panel truck,
Yeah.
so we,
Yeah.
you're gonna have a whole ball of wax here.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem, I
Okay.
mean, that's these transportation.
I can type up a suggestion since it's not an emergency for the next safety meeting, and then we could just go ahead and tell the gentleman that he can do it. We have nothing to prevent it. Okay,
So that sounds good, so we can do that for our next meeting.
next meeting.
Okay, which actually brings me to our next meeting is going to be held the fourth Monday in July, that's July 25th, 6:45, or immediately following the service committee. Do I have something?
Oh, I think you have one more thing. Didn't you want to talk about drug collection?
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry, I'm looking at the time.
I know,
That's fine.
we can talk fast, I think. Chief,
There was a resident that came to me and had a question and was wondering if there's any way we could do some type of drop on whether monthly or every 6 months or something for out-of-date prescription medicines. I said that I would bring that.
well, we can put it back out again, but for at least the last 10, 12 years, we've had a policy that you can call us, we'll come pick it up.
Oh, okay. Well, I did not know that, so I will let that.
Yeah, we got, at one time, and I kid you not, at one time, we just incinerated this stuff. Last year, might have been the year before that, but I think we had like 35 pounds of narcotics
Okay.
that we incinerated. We've got to deal with a place down in Jackson, Ohio, a foundry down there that wants to use that. It's close to one. But yeah, all they have to do is call, we'll come pick it up.
Okay, well, that's good to know. I will share that information. Okay. All right, thank you. All right, so now, our next meeting, again, it's going to be the fourth Monday in July, 2025, 6:45, following service committee. So someone would like to move to adjourn.
I second.
All right, roll call, please.
Keller,
Yeah.
Reedy,
Yeah, yes.
McCreary.
Yes. Meeting is adjourned. 7:30.
Everybody need a quick break before we start?
Oh, yeah.
So I'm not waiting, Sam.
All right, well, in that case, it's 7:33. We will call the council meeting to order.
Start with prayer and our pledge. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done,
Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not to temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power.
Back over again. Look again.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Cosgrave,
Present.
Keller,
Present.
Reedy,
Present.
Foreman,
Present.
McCreary, Schaffner.
Present.
All right, everyone's present. So then we'll move on. First item is approval of the minutes from June 13th.
I move we approve the minutes of June 13th.
Foreman seconds.
Discussion? Roll call.
Cosgrave,
Yes.
Keller,
Yes.
Reedy,
Yes.
Foreman,
Yes.
McCreary,
Yes.
Schaffner.
Yes.
All right, next is the agenda. One small amendment, ordinance 2022-21 is on the agenda, but its title is not on there, which is an ordinance authorizing the village administrator to enter into a contract with Full and Associated Residential Building Department Services and the declaration of the emergency. Just amend the agenda to include that since we only read by title. It should be reflected on there. It's gonna be changed, I'm aware of.
Okay, I move that we include the agenda or amend the agenda with order 2022-21, the heading.
There you go. Discussion. Roll call.
Cosgrave,
Yes.
Keller,
Yes.
Reedy, yes, Foreman,
Yes.
McCreary,
Yes.
Schaffner.
Yes.
All right, agenda approved as amended. No one in person, just a reminder for anybody watching online because of our Zoom bombers a couple months ago. If you We're open in person, but if you want to join online, just call the office and we will give you the access code for that meeting. We're not publishing it online anymore to prevent that from happening. So we will move on to administration reports. I'm going to keep it short and then let Terry talk about it. And I'm just going to say good work, great work actually, to Terry and Joey and the rest of the team. I know everyone saw the email about the $600,000 plus grant. What you didn't see is probably for the last 4 months, Terry and Joey and everyone, they probably got what, 80 hours between everybody into this, in meetings and requests for new meetings and presentations. They put in a lot of work to getting that. So good job.
It's worth it. It's worth it.
Other than that, I think everything I want to talk about parks with the data service. So turn it over to Terry.
I mean, I've talked a lot tonight, so I really don't have anything to add except about the Washington Waterline project. You know, I hope that the residents of the village understand, you know, what this really does, how this impacts them and what it means to them, because we have been able now to put in a waterline project that would have taken us a very, very long time to complete end to end and it does impact a small amount of directly impact to residents, but this will open up the whole west end to a loop instead of dead ends. Our water quality will be better and it allows for any development north of the village. I want to thank the staff. They worked very hard on this also. So thank you for all of the support. And that's all I have, unless there's questions.
Hearing none, Brian is on vacation.
I'd like to talk for Brian, please.
Okay.
So this last week, we had our audit from the state. They came in one day and asked for several different pieces of information. They were able to be out the same day, and the following day, we had Chuck come in and sign the audit. That's how quickly we were able to pass it. This is an audit that every time I start a new process or documentation, I'm just gonna hold up and go like this. Because one of the things that they did was all of our process and procedures for our water and sewer and our billing. They asked for a lot of information about that. We passed in flying colors. They asked about our bidding projects for all of our projects. I was able to show them end to end from signed blueprints to contracts They were really, really like that. They were very interested in public records. And we just put in just about, now this is our third year with a new process that we put in that's online on the way that we answer public records. So again, you know, if anybody ever says, why are we doing these process and procedures, I'm gonna look at this audit and say, this is why. So, you know, Brian, the whole team did an excellent job. I'm really proud of everybody working together and getting this perfect audit, I call it. So thank you.
Questions on the audit? All right, Jeff.
Two new pieces of legislation on the agenda. First one is to amend chapter 1026.04, which is part of the water and wastewater rules and regulations. It's requirements for sanitary sewer. It does include emergency language, but does not need to be passed tonight, go through the 3 readings. And it includes emergency language so that it goes into effect immediately upon its adoption at the 3rd reading. And then the second ordinance is one to approve a contract with Tool and Associates for providing residential inspection services to the village. That also has emergency language. It's my understanding, Terry, that that the village desires for council to consider passing that as an emergency.
That is correct.
Because there's nobody performing that service currently. So we really need to have somebody on board to do that. And it would include pretty much everything that usually goes with residential inspection except for plumbing. And plumbing will still be performed, it's my understanding, by Fairfield County.
That's correct.
And it's a 1-year contract, renewable on a yearly basis. So that's all.
Moving on, finance.
Okay, Mayor, then our next meeting will be July 11th at 6 o'clock.
Service.
Serviceman, this evening, we had two motions for an engineering study on Boulder Road and for stormwater project. And then ordinance 2022-21 of our next scheduled meeting is July 24th at 6 p.m.
Everyone was here, so it was a good question. Safety.
Actually, had a short meeting tonight. We have a report from the administrator and also a report from Tussey. We do have a new hire here in the village, so that's good to know. Our next meeting is going to be July 25th at 6:45. Our meeting service.
And everyone was here for that. So we'll go on to rules.
Yes, Mayor, we did not have a meeting tonight. We had it the last time, and our next meeting will be the second Monday in July, July 11th at 6:45, or following the conclusion of finance.
Moving on, public safety reports. Chief.
Thanks, Mayor. Everyone was here for the original presentation, so just to highlight the new officer coming on board, and we're going to utilize him heavily for nighttime business security. We're working on parking and loud noise complaints, and we're moving quickly towards a new school year.
Questions for Chief? All right, fire board.
The last meeting was June 16th. I was not able to attend that meeting and I do not have the minutes yet. But once I get those, I will distribute those. And our next meeting will be July 21st.
Move on to planning and zoning. Our next meeting is July 14th. We've got a number of topics we'll be doing, and we've got a couple of public hearings. I suppose we'll see some feedback for them. So, July 14th, if anybody wants to attend or Zoom in, let me know, or attend in person. And then I don't know that we have that stuff up on the website yet, so I'll get that up here shortly. Questions? Tree Commission.
We didn't have a meeting this month. We, when in the summertime, we do a lot of pruning and watering and et cetera. So we use those as our meeting times. So next one will be July 14th is our next scheduled meeting. Yes.
Records Commission haven't met yet. I need to wait till Brian gets back, but I'm gonna look for a meeting towards the end of the summer, probably August. To get a meeting in, some records for destruction. Any motions? Not, we will move on to first readings, ordinance 2022-20, and ordinance amending chapter 1026.04 of the Baltimore Code ordinances, water and wastewater rules and regulation requirements for sanitary sewer. In order to update the same and the declaration of emergency, sponsor on this one is Mr. Foreman.
Yeah, this is just updating our code to clarify ownership and responsibility for force main equipment.
And we'll leave this on for a second reading, July 11th. Which gets us to ordinance 2022-21, which is an ordinance authorizing the village administrator to enter into a contract with Twin Associates for residential building department services and declaration of emergency. Sponsor is Michelle.
Yes, we discussed this in service committee tonight. This is just an ordinance for the village to enter into a contract for residential building department services, since we do not have anyone doing that for us now. I'd like to make a motion to suspend the three readings. Third reading.
Roll call.
Husgrave,
Yes.
Keller,
Yes.
Reedy,
Yes.
Foreman, McCurry,
Yes.
Schaffner.
Yes.
Readings.
Now I can make a motion to adopt.
That's pretty second.
Discussion on this ordinance. Hearing none. Roll call.
Husgrave,
Yes.
Keller,
Yes.
Reedy,
Yes.
Foreman,
Abstain.
McCurry,
Yes.
Schaffner.
Yes.
Thank you.
5 yeas. Ordinance passes. Nothing for second reading, nothing for third reading, nothing tabled, which gets us to old business. The old business. All right, any new business? All right. Visitors, no one here. Any council have anything for last call? Anything? If not, our next meeting is July 11th at 7:30.
Motion to adjourn.
A second.
In favor, say aye.
Aye.
Looks like we
Opposed, same
don't.
side. All right. 6-0 unanimous please vote. We are adjourned at 7:46, which makes it 13 minutes because we started 3 minutes late.
Ah, is that a record?
I think so.
I thought Judy had 12 minutes.
Roosters are not allowed.
I saw it. I didn't look at it yet. I looked at my flight, popped it up and saw it. But
It's a draft final account.
okay.
But if you have any questions.
Okay. You can stop it there. Yes.
Wow.
Quick.